everybody. I'm gonna real quick share this video for anybody who's watching this later on or anybody who comes on here. I'm gonna share the video on Facebook on different areas. How's everybody tonight? I'm just sharing this video. Hey Sharon. My computer is so slow. And I have Louie here with me. Hey Michael. Hey Chad. He's so cute. Feel free to share or comment or anything while I'm up here doing this live. Hey Chris. Tonight we're talking about investigation techniques. Oh, Louie just finally decided to lay down. Yeah, it just rained here. My computer is still loading. I'm just gonna wait for a couple seconds until some more people pop in and my computer overloads. Anybody else out there get some rain tonight? I've been working on my flower beds all day, so come on, here we go. Hola. That's not what I want to do. I want to share it. So again, tonight we are doing investigation techniques. For anybody joining this later, feel free to go ahead and post, hey Dana, any comments or questions you have, and I'll try to get back to them later. I'm just trying to share this video literally on my Facebook, my own personal timeline, but my computer is so slow. All right, all done. It just stopped here. Louis is seeing how he can use Facebook Live to call upon his brothers and sisters to finally become overlords. Yeah, well, you know what? The last time he actually licked his butt for about 5 minutes during my live. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, so again, tonight is about investigation techniques. I'm going to do it like an introduction, kind of like I did the last time. Pardon my hair, I just washed it, so it's probably gonna go as I'm sitting here. Hey Lizette. Hey Billy. Again, I'm Rebecca Boyer. I am the co-founder and case manager of Antietam Paranormal Society. I've been investigating the paranormal for 11 years. People ask me all the time how I got into it. I watched Ghost Hunters. Yeah, I'm one of those people. My husband and I really got into, hey Thomas, Ghost Hunters back when it first came on TV, and it was like, I was very sheltered growing up, so it is a distraction, yes. I didn't even realize that people went out there and investigated the paranormal. Hey Chris. So, you know, over the years, I've learned so many things. I've been to so many places, met so many people. I love being a paranormal investigator. I love going to all different sorts of types of places with different types of activity. I met somebody this past weekend that I kind of shared, you know, my love of history and connecting paranormal activity to history. And she was amazing, and she really, you know, she had no interest in the paranormal, but she said that is exactly what would interest her if she said she didn't want to deal with anything paranormal. She was actually an empath, so I understand that. But anyways, you know, it's really cool when you find other people who have that same, you know, thought process about connecting things historically with the activity that is occurring in a location. That has nothing to do with tonight's topic, but again, I'm doing like an introduction. So obviously I run Antietam Paranormal Society. We have right now 8 members, and we investigate lots of different places. And one of my key things that I've wanted to do the past couple years is focus on specific locations to create a actual research project into these locations and see how paranormal activity changes. Hey Sharon, hey Andy. I definitely say that paranormal activity in a lot of places changes over time. So when I see some people investigate and immediately put a residual label on a haunt, I feel like they haven't done enough. I definitely feel like Oddfellows, we've investigated there for 5 years now. And in the beginning, the activity that we were experiencing was not intelligent at all. But through the years, we've come upon things that were intelligent, and it's almost like they become more familiar with you. They're willing to, work with your equipment. They're willing to speak with you and really kind of create I don't know, just they start talking to you and start giving you real information. Hey, Jason, into why they're there. I had to pick Louie up a little bit ago, so now I have hair all over my nose. He is a Maine Coon mix, so he's very fluffy. Anyways, if he gets distracting, let me know and I'll kick him out. But anyways, let's see. Tonight I want to kind of begin by setting the stage for a paranormal investigation. For me, a formal paranormal investigation is going into a location that we've done an interview with a client. We have done historical research. We have done, a good walkthrough with a sweep to figure out any areas that are unsafe or may not be conducive to setting our equipment up. So, when we go into a location, I want to have a good plan of where we're setting up cameras, a DVR system, where our base command might be. Hi, Chris. I want to know exactly how it's going to go, and I want to delegate my team members so that we're efficient. There's a lot of time that goes into setup during investigations, and I feel like if people don't know what's going on and don't know what they're doing, we spend an hour to 2 hours doing this stuff, and it's a waste of time. So I've always told my crew, our goal is to set up in a half an hour. Now, we only use 4 DVR cameras, so ideally that doesn't take very long. As long as you know where you're going and you know how to run the cable, it's pretty simple. We also set up stationary recorders. So ideally we set up these, hey Alex, we set up our location based on the hotspots, just like anybody else. And, if there's any visual anomalies, you obviously want to catch that on your video cameras that you set up. If there's any type of audio or disembodied voices that they're getting or hearing, you really want to have your recorders running in those areas, especially all the time, not just when you're doing sessions. We have stationary audio, we have session audio. Most of our investigators have their own recorders so that they're creating the session audio. And so setting up the location, for me, video and audio is one of the most important parts of the plan. So when you get into techniques to do that, there's a lot of things that come into play when you set up a video camera. It's not just throw it out there and hook up the cables. You've got windows. You got to make sure if there's a car going by, what it looks like when that car goes by. Is the IR glaring off of any type of reflective object in the room? Is there any issue, if you're moving about? Is there anything that is in that environment that could create a very strange anomaly on that camera? So again, I say it's not just about setting up that camera. It's about making sure that you're getting the best video possible and you're not getting all those anomalies. And if you do get that, you need to make sure as you're watching that DVR throughout the night that you know what is happening, because you can't recreate it afterwards. So, and sometimes it's virtually impossible to actually recreate that video ever again. So make sure that when you're out there investigating that you know what your camera's picking up. So again, I'm just setting the investigation stage right now, just saying, like, if you're out there for investigation techniques, you want to capture what you're actually investigating. Hey, Kathleen. So otherwise, you know, we separate in teams. My particular group, I like to set it up where we have a guy team and a girl team. Some spirits don't like talking to males. Some spirits would rather talk to males. So having a specific team with that gender is, you know, it really can give you insight into the actual spirit that's in a room. So our teams, sometimes we have the whole team, so all 8 members, 4-4. There are times that sometimes we have people in DVR watching all night. Sometimes we can't do that because the location is so large. You know, we're all out there investigating at the same time. Hey, Kathy. So, you know, you really want to get the most out of your investigation when you're out there. Again, this is not really techniques, but it's definitely setting the stage for a good investigation. Does anybody have questions? If anybody has questions, feel free to say anything or comments. I'm always willing to answer questions as we go through. I think sometimes, you know, good example. Right now I'm reading a book called The Enigma of the Poltergeist. And it's fascinating to me because there's a lot of stuff in this book that really kind of reads like demonic haunt. And this author actually wrote this book in the 1960s. So to see an author write something, you know, about objects being thrown, strange smells, you know, just weird feelings and everything that they kind of encompassed, he's labeling it poltergeist. And honestly, most investigators these days would try to label it demonic. And it's very interesting to me how he sets up the book. He literally goes through every different type of case that he's found through the years that's been documented, and then he kind of gives a theory about it at the end. And I think that as paranormal investigators, we need to create that well-documented investigation. We need to show all the variables. If it's the weather, the people who are involved, you know, do you have a psychic? Do you have empaths? Do you have people that are complete muggles, you know, that don't have any abilities at all? It's nice to keep all of that documented so that you know, why did this investigation turn out this particular way? Why was it more active this time? Was it the time frame? Was it because it was a full moon? You know, keeping all this information, at some point through the years, if you've done over, you know, 300 investigations, then you might have a little bit more of a clue of what's going on and what creates some sort of, you know, interaction or heightened activity. I'm going to go ahead and just start going into investigation techniques. I really didn't know what to include in this because I think everything that we do on an investigation is part of the technique. You just talking about setting up cameras is a technique. It's, you know, there's so many things that are involved. I have heard also that there are some theories that poltergeists are manifested by the energy of the living. See, that is exactly what this individual was saying, that, you know, poltergeists were specifically centered around one individual. He really hasn't elaborated on how he feels, you know, this happens. I think to criminal minds and saying there's a stressor, there's obviously something going on that is creating this. And do all of them tulpas? Yeah. Which Sharon, you know, I was thinking about that, you know, seeing like all these crossovers with all these things. A poltergeist, you know, if it's just stuff that's happening energy-wise, that, you know, they're creating rocks being thrown and water spots in the house and just strange activity like that. At what point does it cross over to being more of a thought form than just somebody's, you know, energy just creating this havoc? So that's definitely an interesting research topic and really blog post. But moving into investigation techniques, I'm going to say like things that you do when you're out doing EVP sessions, or, you know, your team's out there really, exactly, it could be telekinetic and not know it. You know, like there's this one case of a young girl who set fires, and she actually burnt her house down. So with her mind, somehow she was able to do this. But trigger objects. To me, one of the biggest techniques that you can do is to have objects that trigger responses on investigations. Now, anybody have anything that I don't list here or I don't expand on, feel free to go ahead and say something. You know, I love hearing new ideas, and I'll kind of go through some of the ones that I've gotten recently that people have been doing for a while, that it's like, you know, let's try this out. Trigger objects and situations. We just want to just say objects because there are situations that you can have where it's not an actual object that you're using. Historical artifacts. Now, when you're in a location that is, I'm going to use Civil War era because that is huge here. You know, I live near Gettysburg. We're about 45 minutes away. I'm about 25 minutes away from Antietam. I grew up around the South Mountain battlefield, so, you know, even my parents' property now is kind of like near Crampton's Gap. So there's a lot of really rich Civil War history here and a lot of big Civil War buffs. I like to carry a map that kind of goes over all the different battles. You can kind of, you know, discuss the battles. I have Confederate money, and that actually has elicited lots of responses. And this is not real Confederate money, because that'd be worth money. This is something that I got from the actual Antietam bookstore, gift store that they have. When I was a kid, we went to Antietam, and I just got some of this money. And you can get it in Gettysburg, you know, all these souvenir shops and everywhere, they have these things. But, you know, it really kind of like, you talk about it and you sit it down and you really, you know, maybe you're like, trying to pay somebody, you're doing something, even setting up some sort of role play, and I'll go into that a little bit more. Just having that there, we have had so many responses. It's incredible. You can use things like, we went to Green Hill Farm in Sharpsburg, and she had some things that were uncovered in the lawn of Green Hill Farm, and we just had them out and we started asking questions. I think there were some bullets and some pottery and, you know, just little things that she had found, bottles, that we would try to incorporate into the investigation. Other things would be, you know, if maybe the person that you think haunts the place has a dress or something, a hairbrush or something that actually connects them to the location, you could always incorporate that into the investigation, just bringing the topics and the discussion around to that particular item and the person that is involved with it. So it can be anything. I mean, whatever historically kind of has significance in that location, Civil War, Revolutionary War, it could just be, you know, any time frame up till now, because everything that is past, even the last minute, is history. Anyways, moving on. Toys. Toys are huge. You go over to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, Lily's room is full of toys. Music boxes, balls, dolls, stuffed animals, jacks, you know, anything that, you know, from hundreds of years ago to now that a child would use. I mean, you don't have to spend a fortune on this. Most times you can go into the dollar store and find things that would actually elicit a response. If there's children's spirits there, you know, find something that you think, if it's a male, you know, find something like a little car or something that might generate a response. And even better, incorporating the electrical components or the equipment component in that. Right now I'm creating, thanks to Chad, if Chad's still on here, I'm creating a stuffed animal that has a REM pod style equipment inside of it. And Chad has made one of these, and it was incredible. He had this thing set up in the Oddfellows, and it consistently would respond, you know, with questions that we were asking repeatedly. It would respond the same way, and it was great. Which I'm very upset. I created these two things, and Louie over here decided he'd chew one of the aerial antennas on it. Anyways, he actually will go in the bathroom and take bites out of the toilet paper like it's an apple. He's crazy. Anyways, moving on from toys. Again, if you have questions, you have comments, go ahead and throw them up in there. Hey, chat. Oh, thank you so much. Like, your help is invaluable with all that. That is awesome. And you know what? I feel like a superwoman creating this paranormal equipment. I've always wanted to try it, and it's always like I'm trying to get Jeremy to sit down with me, and he just, so I'm having to do it. Another thing, trying to figure out on my own. I already said money, so again, you can even use foreign money. You can use any old money or anything that would actually have some sort of correlation with the location. Alcohol. I don't say drink it. I mean, use it. Go buy some like miniatures, or I even bought full bottles of rye whiskey when we did the Horsey Distillery in Burkittsville. I don't know how much I've said about that location, but the Horsey Distillery actually made rye whiskey, and they even had this whole thing where they'd make the whiskey, they'd put it on a boat, and the boat would like sail around South America. Oh my goodness. So it was very well aged. Apparently they sold it at like the Ritz-Carlton and places like that. But alcohol, for some reason, spirits like the alcohol. So, it was a pastime way back when to have, a nightcap. Drinking was a pretty common thing with dinner. So, since some people they were just drunks. So, use miniatures or take alcoholic bottles with you, just to see if maybe they're interested in some whiskey or some wine. Tobacco. Jeremy constantly, when we go to the Glade Valley Mill, he always asks the spirit if he wants some snuff. Now, Jeremy actually chews like pouches, like kind of like skull, but in a lot of cases they called stuff snuff, and he would always try to offer it, and we would always get a response. So again, take some tobacco products, cigarettes. Now, obviously, don't break the bank by purchasing these things. If you don't have them handy, then just go buy something that, is cost effective. Role play. When we went to Green Hill Farm, it was me, investigator Shannon, and Christian, and apparently, there was a Civil War hospital that we were investigating, and we tried to role play like we were cutting his leg off. It was bad. We were laughing. We did get responses, like something kept knocking on the wall, but it really didn't work out because we're not really that great of actors. So role playing, though, is great. If you have the dress from the era, or even if it's like if it's a hospital, wearing something like a nurse would wear or something like that, you never know what kind of responses you might get if you role play in a location. They may think that they're in their original environment, so it's always worth a try. But definitely, if you're not good at acting and it just makes you laugh, probably not going to work out. Though I really think that they were laughing at us. Anyways, so talking about trigger situations or other things other than objects. Music. Right now I am sporting Portal Paranormal Society's t-shirt. My daughter actually asked me, why are you wearing that? Why aren't you wearing APS? Because Portal are our peeps. If you haven't liked Portal Paranormal Society's page, Ken Sminsky, who runs the group, is he definitely is someone who's on the same level as me. We've always, thought the same way and had the same ideas. And, he's someone that no matter where we are or what we're doing, if we get together and investigate, it's like we've always been doing it, So, he can whistle like nobody's business. And when we were at Trans-Allegheny at one time, he started whistling, and we were getting, shadow figures and all kinds of stuff happening. I wouldn't say, go out there and learn how to whistle. If you can play a harmonica, just play music, preload a recorder. Christian, I was just talking about you. Hey, Christian, do you remember when we role played at the Green Hill Farm, and we were pretending like we were cutting your leg off? Oh my gosh, that was funny. But anyways, music is a great way to get a response. Another place that we've used music is the Oddfellows. The little girl that's upstairs really likes to listen to the Tomorrow from Annie. Hello. All right, Edward, well, you can go ahead and send me a message on our page. But the little girl upstairs in Oddfellows, she does like the Annie music tomorrow. And every time we play it, we seem to get some sort of response. Now, sometimes she doesn't like to come out. Hey, Jeannie. But, you know, it's just kind of, I wanted to outline that this does work. And you can use any era specific. Jeremy even used, Haley. Jeremy used at one point a Native American drumming when we were in a location that actually had a lot of correlation with Native Americans, and they were getting footsteps, they heard horses. It's crazy. So the next kind of trigger would be to use discussion topics. Now this kind of borderlines on, you know, some people would say it's a little bit provocative, provoking them for a response. But depending on what your conversation is, I mean, you don't have to get nasty with the spirit to get a response. I'm saying just use conversation that may not be, it may be or may not be something that they like. So you could actually talk about a known history. You know, just start, I read a letter one time from one son to another involved with this Civil War hospital. And we didn't get a response, but still, just remember, if it's something that's connected to the history of the location, read letters, read books, read just passages from things. You could do poetry, you could just do the history itself. Just talk about past owners, just kind of read through the names. You could also, one of the topics that always seems to get, okay, I'm going to pause for just a second. Edward says, sorry about that. I was just wondering about spirits are following me everywhere, but a new one, it's small and it's black, and I don't know if it's my dog. He passed away sometime last year, and my dad and my grandpa passed away next 5 years next month. Well, it could very well be. You said it's small, and it follows you around. If, you know, I would say follow your gut. If you feel like that it's possibly your dog, it could very well be. I would definitely say, Edward, send me a message and we can chat about it. And I'll help you as best as I can. Just send us a message on the page. But, you know, going back into known history, well, not known history, but just discussing things when you're investigating, things like sex. Hey, Ray. Discussing things like religion. I'll be honest, you know, we've had people through the years that are atheists, part of the group. So, you know, when we start discussing our different views on religion, it's shocking at how much response is and how many times, I mean, you get some pretty interesting responses to that, and they don't like it. I know at the Masonic Temple, we would discuss, definitely, Edward, I'll get back to you as soon as I can this evening. We discussed, you know, one person would say, I don't believe there is a God, and, you know, the next one would start discussing their beliefs in Jesus Christ, and, you know, different things. So bringing religion into it really could trigger some sort of response on an investigation. And, you know, a lot of this stuff, you can't really do one investigation where you're including all of this. So this is, again, when I say locations shouldn't just be investigated once, they should be done many times. I personally, if it's a location anymore that I can only go in once, I don't really want to do it, because while it looks great for our profile and great for, you know, hey, we've been here, what does it really teach us? I mean, it teaches us about going to different places, but we don't learn anything by going into one place and not having anything happen to us. So if you have a location that is very active and you can go back and do research over and over, hey, Gina, that's what I would recommend, because that's where you're going to get most of your information. So it really, I guess it depends on what you're into it for. If you just like to experience locations, it's great. But for me, I love doing the research, and, you know, I'm actually right now writing a book. So to me, creating, you know, a book about setting standards and things in the paranormal, that's where I want to be. I want to be part of the research aspect. I don't necessarily just want to do it just to have fun. But anyways, discussion. Anybody has questions? I'm moving on from trigger objects and situations. If you have thoughts, comments or anything, throw them up there in the comment section. You could share this video as well. But thanks everybody for joining me. Moving on, equipment, paranormal equipment. Hey Jennifer, through the years, I definitely have become a little more old-fashioned. I like paranormal equipment, but...
Hello?
That's my messenger, sorry. I definitely feel like we get distracted by equipment too easy. I think that on investigations, you know, we're so focused on what's coming out of a box or the lights that are coming on that we aren't really experiencing what's going on around us. Some of my best investigations, I only had a recorder going and we had nothing else happening. You know, there's no K2 meters, there's no SP7, there's no REM pod, there's nothing else going on but us and the location and all of the audio being captured and the video being captured. You know, pretty much everything under the sun happened to us. So it's definitely something to think about when you start doing techniques. Add in a piece of equipment and then take it away. Learn what works and get rid of what doesn't. You don't have to beat a horse, you know, to death by just having the same piece of equipment running all the time, and you get distracted by it, and it's just very frustrating. I know for us, you know, we've talked about it time and time again with our group that we turn on the spirit box. Some people really hate the spirit box. Some spirits really hate the spirit box. I like it when it works. When it's not working, turn it off. You know, give it a few minutes. Hey, Jeanette, don't sit there and have it running for hours on end and, you know, run with something that is possibly not even paranormal. There's a lot of people anymore that just don't do ITC, and I feel like ITC works, but you know, it's to each their own. So one of the things technique wise that we do on investigation is use equipment that spirits can manipulate, and that most equipment these days can be manipulated. You have your REM pods, your Boo Buddy, your K2 meters, flashlights, your REM pods, pretty much everything people use for some sort of spirit communication, whether, you know, make this light up or for yes and walk away from it for no, or having two different things, you know, light this one up for yes and light that one up for no. So people use a lot pieces of equipment for manipulation, and they record this. And it's whatever works for that individual, whatever works for that group. Every location is different. Some spirits don't want to, you know, manipulate equipment. Some do. You really just have to try to test out and see what works for you. Like talking about the flashlight method. I don't use it as much as I used to, but, you know, just remember, use the colors. Don't just use one. Use the colors and use more than one. And try to switch it up. Other equipment that detects movement, you know, technique wise, we've started incorporating these little motion sensor lights that are kind of like security. And I'll be honest, 2 times so far I have had the most incredible interactions. Spirits, you know, just telling them that you can walk towards it. And these boxes actually, they come on, but they turn back off pretty quickly. So we've tested them in various different ways to see if we can get them to come on, and we haven't been able to. So, you know, it really kind of validates what is making this go off. So technique wise, in a situation like this, I would always want something else to back it up. It's great to have the experience of it coming on, but having something else like a, you know, maybe it is the K2 meter or the spirit box or just an audio clip, something else to back it up, showing that something turned it on, and you say, was that you? And you get a yes response, or it was me, or maybe he says his name. I don't know, but just having some sort of audio response is great backup for that. So movement wise, there's lots of equipment that detects movement, trail cameras. Some people even use regular cameras that only come on when there's movement. So these are things to look into. And if you are tech savvy, create your own things. Just remember that your equipment is only as good as your interpretation of it. If you don't know what the equipment does, how it works, or, you know, if somebody builds it for you and you have no idea what's in this thing and they're just telling you, oh, well, it does this, you just don't know. So always learn your equipment. Don't just take something out and take, you know, their word for how it works. This is why I like using equipment that is made for other purposes. If it doesn't do what their purpose is, then maybe it might be paranormal. You know, if it's specifically supposed to do a certain thing, and, you know, like a EMF detector, you don't have any EMF in a location and it all of a sudden spikes and you cannot find a source, it's a good likelihood if something is going on. Well, maybe that EMF isn't the spirit, but it could be a symptom, or even, you know, exhaust from a spirit. We don't know, but it definitely gives you an indicator that something is happening in that location. But moving on from movement, again, if you have questions or thoughts, feel free to comment. There's lots of methods out there these days. Real-time EVP. There are recorders that do this, but you could also just take your regular recorder, plug in earbuds or headphones, and listen to your audio as you're recording it, and you may hear responses real time. I personally have not done this because I find it distracting, but other people have had great responses, had great, you know, immediately you're able to respond to the spirit and maybe have a communication. But it's definitely something to try if you really enjoy that kind of thing. The new one is the Estes method, and I'm pretty certain, see, I don't know this one that well. I know Ken Szymanski has done it a couple times, and various other, I think Amy Bruni on her TV show, she did it. You wear a blindfold and listen to spirit box conversation, and you're asking questions and you're responding. Anybody has any more information about that? I haven't tried it. The spirit box for me, kind of hurts my ears. It is one of my favorites, but it's kind of the thing where when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. So it's no point in even having it on. But moving into, you know, the whole spirit box thing, ITC is a form of, you know, it's a technique of investigating using different types of electronic equipment to receive responses. It can be televisions, it can be radios, you name it. It can pretty much ITC communication. It's whatever is using an electronic device to communicate. One of the things that I tell people when you're doing spirit box conversations, when you start out, create a baseline. Listen, you know, a couple times as it sweeps through. What are you getting? Is there a lot of radio? If you're in a more urban area, you're not going to really be able to use any type of device like that because there's going to be too much radio communication, and it's distracting, and it can make you think that you're getting something that you're really not. So create a baseline and just hear, listen to what you're getting, and kind of, you know, say that. Use your audio as your report. Use times, you know, use just statements that, oh, hey, you know, we're getting this on this station. So later on you can look at it and you know, later on you get something that sounds like a spirit telling you something, and you note what station it was on. Well, if it's similar to what you had said before, it could be that it's not paranormal at all, and it's just your imagination. The next thing is when you start... Oh, wow, Edward. That is interesting. And, you know, I hear a lot of people say that radios, the spirits love to play with radios. Now, I obviously don't know it's definitely a spirit, but it's interesting to know. Definitely, you know, Edward, I would say, kind of going off topic a little bit, guys, everybody that ever has paranormal experiences, create a journal. Start writing down times, you know, what you experience, what you're feeling, dates, seasons, whatever you can, write it down and keep that information in a notebook. Copperhead. How was that EnigmaCon, or if that's how you say it? How was that this weekend? Anyways, You know, start journalizing all that stuff, Edward, and maybe you might be able to find some answers. But anyways, with ITC, when you're using spirit boxes, ghost boxes, any type of radio thing, you know, there's so many things out there people are creating these days. Start out with answers that only have, with questions that only have one answer. So I always like to ask, what color is the grass? Now, obviously, it could be brown, it could be green, but really, there's only a couple of answers that they could say. So if you get that response, you know you're probably talking with somebody. Asking a question like, what is your name? And you get Paula. You're very welcome, Edward. You don't know if Paula came from the actual spirit box. You don't know, you know, where is that coming from? Is it the radio that's making the sound? Is it just your imagination? But asking a question that only has one answer and you definitely hear the response to that, you know, what color is the sky? And it says blue. Just remember, creating that, it just gives validation to whatever you get for the rest of the time. Any questions or anything about ITC, instrumental trance communication, feel free to throw it up there in the comment section. I'm going to move on to another one with equipment. Non-human interaction. Now, no one else has used this term. I just created it. Years ago, we investigated the Masonic Temple here in Hagerstown a lot. And I thought to myself, you know, there are locations in this building where we get stuff when nobody's in the room. But when we ask questions, we don't get anything. So what if we set it up where we're recording and we have audio going with questions to see if they'll respond without us being in the room? And we have not had, as far as I know, we didn't have any luck at the Masonic Temple, but we haven't tried it since. I say that is a really good idea, to cut out the living in the location and just have it, you know, a stationary recorder or even a video, and just have questions that you've preloaded onto a recorder. Now, I made the mistake of, when I started the recorder, I immediately started asking questions. Don't do that. Give a couple minutes for you to get out of the room before it actually starts asking the questions. So again, you can do that on a recorder. You could have a laptop set up. You could have a CD playing, something like that. Hashtag copyright. Yep, it's my term, non-human interaction. Right here today on April 30th, 2019. Coined it. It's going to be in my book. Anyways, so definitely try that. I really think that, you know, sometimes spirits just don't like people. So we've definitely encountered a lot of hermit-like spirits through the years. And again, going back to audio, when you set up and do EVP sessions, I'd say the tried and true method is just to kind of settle down. Please don't carry your recorder around. Whatever you do when you investigate, put that baby down somewhere. Don't carry it, because it makes all sorts of crazy noise. And a really good thing, if you're walking in a group of people and you're at the back and you have a recorder and somebody's 10 feet in front of you walking and they say something, your recorder is not going to pick that up the way that you want it to. So I have had many times people have said, oh my gosh, you've got to listen to this audio. Now, we were in the same place at the same time, and I listened to hers, and then I listened to mine, and I'm like, that's just so-and-so saying something. So remember, don't carry around your recorder. If you are carrying it around, just don't use it. I know a lot of times, like, people just keep it on. You can catch all kinds of things. Going to the bathroom, people making strange remarks, or, you know, conversations that you don't really want to hear. So just remember, don't walk around with it. Sit it down somewhere where the mic points towards an area that it doesn't have all that noise. You don't want it next to a window. You don't want it next to the furnace or refrigerator. Put it somewhere where it doesn't have all that ambient noise. But when you're doing audio sessions, please tag stuff and don't whisper. That's the best technique. Always tag everything that you're doing. I mean, and sit still, because there's sometimes you are out investigating and you've got those people that just don't ever sit still. So it's constantly chair moved, sighed, coughed, sneezed, sat back in my chair. You know, just try to sit as still as possible when you're doing EVP sessions. And if you do move or you do make a sound, tag it, even if it's really quiet, because you never know the weirdest sound of your foot hitting the floor. Maybe nobody heard it, but that recorder, I guarantee you, especially if it's sitting on the floor, does hear it, and it could sound like it's paranormal, and it's not. So tag everything that you do when you're doing audio sessions. When you're doing EVP sessions, again, it's kind of like trigger situations. When you're out investigating, sometimes the conversations that you have with the people in your group elicit a response. It's almost like they want to interject their own opinion. So, you know, you could just be talking about, you know, a conversation you had with a friend, or it could be doing something super silly, you know, just talking about farts or something like that. Seriously, it does happen in my group. So just any type of conversation could potentially elicit a response. So your technique when you're out investigating can incorporate just regular conversation. You could even set it up almost as a role play, where you're just going in to see somebody and you're sitting down and having a conversation with them. If you know spirits that are there, I mean, it would be easier if you already knew, you know, Albert's in the room. So you go in and say, hey, Albert, you know, it's Becky. I'm back here to see you. Would you like some whiskey or a cigar? You know, just kind of try to create some sort of line of discussion with them, or discussion with the people you're with. But going into like technique with questions, really there's no wrong question that you can ask. One of the things, like going to Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, I had inspiration probably, I don't even know when it was. It was a couple years after I had started helping out there. We were in the geriatrics building and we were not getting any type of responses. And, you know, honestly, everybody can vouch for this. When you're sitting there and you're not getting anything, it is so boring. And you're like struggling at certain points to be like, please stay awake, or can something happen? Your mind starts to wander, you start getting silly. Well, I started thinking about what kind of questions would someone who possibly had a childlike mentality, what would they respond to? So I immediately said, what is your favorite color? And we had not gotten anything when we were in there, and it just blew. So we started asking questions that, you know, about coloring and simple things that maybe they would, hey Mike, maybe they would have a response to. So just remember that not every location is going to be that location that gives you intelligent responses. I mean, you can't ask, are you dead? Or, what year is it? Who is our president? Or, you know, ask questions, you know, what is your favorite color? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite food? Things like that. You never know what kind of responses you get. So there is a technique for depending on where you're going and what kind of location you're in. I promised Anna, my daughter, that I would be done in an hour with this. She really wanted to sit in on it, but she probably would have just waved at you every 5 minutes. Anyways, so I'm going to start wrapping this up a little bit. Next week, I am going to do question and answers. So most frequently asked questions that I get, and I'm probably going to pose the question on the page. You know, do you have any questions that you'd want answered? What questions do other people get asked often? And try to give like responses. And this is more for people who don't know anything about the paranormal. So I'm going to try to put it out there for, you know, for the enthusiast, or people who just are getting into it, you know, or even people who are experienced paranormal activity. This could all be very helpful to them. I think that's about it. If anybody has any other techniques that they really feel are important that they incorporate in their investigations, feel free to post those up. I do have some news. It's kind of exciting. I've been asked to be part of a paranormal show. It's not really a TV show because it's not like meant for TV, but or up front for TV, I don't know. But I'm excited. I'm supposed to start that not in May, in June. So I'm really excited about that. To be approached. I was approached because she said, you have so much information and so much history, and I really like the way you approach the paranormal. So I'm really excited about it. I've never wanted to be on TV, but sometimes it's just, you gotta make that next step. So we'll see. But anyways, I think that's about it for tonight. Again, if you have anything that you want to comment or questions you want to ask, you can either post it on here, you can send me a message. If you have any topic ideas, feel free to post those in the comments, or even send me the ideas on the Facebook page for Antietam Paranormal Society. But again, my name is Rebecca Boyer, and I am the co-founder of Antietam Paranormal Society. Thanks, Chris. I'm excited. I'm really excited because it's, you know, local stuff and just something new, something different. But I will be talking to everybody soon, and I will see you next week right here on the APS page live. Bye.